In today's episode of Pathmark Presents, I have a very interesting guest with me here today. I'm with Adam Epstein, who is the VP of Mergers and Acquisition at Boosted Commerce. And Boosted Commerce is a CPG platform focused on accelerating the growth of consumer brands, and particularly focusing on Amazon third-party sellers. And we're really going to be learning today, what the role of merger acquisition plays in that field and how Adam has been growing into that role and really, just learning about Boosted a little bit more and curious to dive into the world of Boosted. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here.
Very good. So maybe just, give us sort of a quick rundown in your own words. What is Boosted all about?
Sure. So Boosted Commerce was started at the beginning of 2020. It's just over a year old. Essentially started to be the Procter & Gamble or the Johnson & Johnson of the 21st century. There's a ton of tailwinds in the e-commerce space right now. We are primarily focused on Amazon and buying FBA third-party businesses, where we are rolling those up, aggregating them, and have a hub and spoke type model where we have the Boosted brain, where most of our operations team sits to help drive additional growth for a lot of companies that have kind of hit the plateau or have entrepreneurs, sellers that want to move on to the next business or love building businesses and don't really love scaling them. We will come in and take those over and help scale them to the next level through multiple levers that we have to pull on.
Gotcha. So I got that right. Somebody who is your particular client is somebody that wants to sell their Amazon business?
Absolutely. There are 2,500 new Amazon businesses started every day. And there's about 30,000 plus, actually getting closer to 40,000 given COVID and all the acceleration in e-commerce, 40,000 Amazon businesses doing $1 million plus a year, which is really our target. So some of these are mom and pop, some of them are a bit more sophisticated, but ultimately what we're looking for is people who are looking to sell because they've either hit that plateau or really just want an exit and to cash out on what they've been able to build for a variety of reasons, which I'm happy to discuss.
Gotcha. So if somebody who's listening in, right, obviously it's a selected group that would be falling under this, but what does a typical FBA seller looking like that you guys would be working with? Like what is other requirements? Is that particular verticals? Is that size? Is that, revenue? Like what you guys are looking at?
Yeah, so we have about 10 criteria that we kind of fit into when we're first starting to look at a business. The main ones, category, we are a bit agnostic. The hardest two for us to get after are fashion and electronics for a variety of reasons. Some is SKU density, some of it is the change of pace and how quickly some of those the SKUs become obsolete. Great examples, Apple iPhone chargers, right, from one iPhone to the next, need to keep up with that change of pace. The 5 that we are really focused on are food/supplements. Some of our competitors won't do supplements, but it is a category that we play in. Home is another one. Baby/kid is a third. Beauty is a fourth. And the 5th is pet. So those are the ones that we're primarily focused on, but we are pretty agnostic and we'll look at, quite frankly, anything from a category perspective. As we get into size, we're usually looking for about $250,000 to $5-6 million of EBITDA or SDE, which is a cash flow proxy. We're looking for businesses that are doing 20% plus margins, growing in the double digits. Usually we're actually looking for SKU concentration with any individual brand. Where our diversity comes from is across the portfolio as we build up our portfolio. And then we are looking for products or brands that are leaders in their category, what we call review mode. So showing up on page 1 on Amazon within specific keywords, have a nice reviews and ratings or some of their competitors, and have that proven. Part of why we're buying instead of building is that they've proven it out, right? So there's already a product market fit that we are acquiring rather than having to build it from scratch.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm very curious then though, right? In a way, this is a type of a B2B business as well. Like, how do you come across the right FBA sellers? Like, what is the journey of an FBA seller actually, partnering finally with Boosted Commerce? Like, is that, what would be sort of the, let's call it acquisition channels that you guys would be leveraging?
For sure. We kind of look at it at the top of the funnel as a 3-tiered system, right? The first tier is there are brokers, investment bankers, whatever you want to call them in the space, who will have businesses that are selling. There's a bunch of them. Website closers, empire flippers are two of the bigger ones that most people in the space have heard of. Who will have businesses, they put them on a site, and typically you see a decent amount of competition for those businesses because people have the ability to see them right through the broker who's marketing for them. So you can sell through a broker. If your business is not as ready for sale, they'll help you get ready, and they'll help you kind of reach out to the right people. The other two ways are more proprietary, which most people in the field are already doing, but it's inbounds and outbounds. So from an inbound perspective, as Boosted Commerce and the category as a whole gets better known, Amazon sellers are reaching out to us saying, hey, I'm interested in selling my business. That's partially on the marketing side, and gets into a little bit of the funnel that you were talking about previously. And then the second part is outbounds, where we actually have BDR, or business development representatives, who are reaching out to a wide array of Amazon sellers, from larger lists where we are able to scrape some data and go after targets we want, to more specific lists where we're saying, okay, we really want to focus in on the pet sector. Within pet, we want to look at dog treats, and we'll reach out to dog treat businesses, with a bit more of a targeted focus.
Gotcha. Super interesting. You mentioned inbound and outbound there. Obviously, we talk a lot about inbound and outbound channels on the Pathmark Presents podcast. Just very briefly, right? What, from your position and your hat in the company, granted, you're not running the marketing team, but what's your perspective on the website? What role does it play in generating potential sellers reaching out to you guys?
Yeah, I think our website plays a huge role. We'll be on podcasts like this. We'll have marketing outside of this. As we do that, typically we're drawing people into our website to see it. We have a questionnaire on our website that our potential sellers can fill out. It helps us get a little bit more information, qualify the leads before we reach out to them with an in-person call. So we can understand, there's, again, we're pretty wide in terms of what we look at, but we also don't want to waste time if it's not a great fit. And we can get a decent sense for that pretty fast. But it's also a great advertising tool for us, right? We talked about differentiation. We talked about what some of the brands we have. We have stories from some of our sellers to help get other sellers more comfortable. So it is a huge tool for us as we think about marketing and driving sellers to Boosted.
Gotcha. Let's come back to your company, right? If a FBA seller goes with Boosted Commerce, like what is something that they would be getting at? What is sort of the competitive advantage? How would you describe the competitive advantage of Boosted Commerce?
Yeah, I think we have a few things that stand out. The market is moving incredibly fast, and we offer speed and certainty in a way that I think is differentiated. Typically, our deals are somewhere between 30 and 45 days. We've done a deal as quickly as 10 days, which was to help one of our sellers from a tax purpose advantage to get it done by the end of the year for them. So we'll move fast, and we are pretty diligent at the beginning. So when we give an LOI, a letter of intent, we'll stand behind that letter of intent. And unless there's something that comes up that we didn't know about, a red flag or something that the seller was hiding from us, we will close on the deal that we say we're going to close on, which is, gives some confidence to the seller that we are going to get there with them. I think we also maintain relationships with the seller. We have our levers, as I mentioned earlier, to help grow the business, but our sellers are the ones that have grown the business to where it is today, and we're taking over, and we don't want to completely, change what they've done. They've obviously been successful, and we're buying them for a reason. So we're going to add value, and we're going to add our levers on top of that. So we're constantly in communication with them. We want to understand kind of the nooks and crannies of the business, and we'll dive deep to make sure we get it. So when our operations team takes the business over, hopefully it's a super smooth transition, and our consumers won't know any difference between it being a Boosted Commerce brand and under the seller's ownership. And that's kind of why I think about Johnson & Johnson or Procter & Gamble, because there's plenty of brands under those two umbrellas, which you don't even know are Johnson & Johnson or Procter & Gamble brands, right? They're brands that stand on their own. And that's kind of what we hope is a Boosted umbrella. And then underneath that Boosted umbrella is, our portfolio of brands.
Gotcha. I would love to learn a little bit about your role, right? It's a very interesting role, and listeners will be probably learning from a couple of angles about it. I would be curious, right? If we're looking at sort of a couple of challenges that come even with the role, I would be curious in terms of innovation, right? What would you say is the biggest challenge in driving innovation into your role and into your position?
Yeah, I think as everything goes online, data is more and more prevalent, right? So there's always going to be more data. There's always going to be more you can analyze, and there's always going to be better ways to grab that data and make decisions based on that data, right? I think at some point, there's certainly a feel for this, and there's knowledge and precedent from doing it for a while, but really data speaks, and data doesn't lie. So the more you can kind of gather that data, find the right ways to use it, build smart algorithms, et cetera, to help make decisions, I think that's going to be a differentiator in the space for sure. And then also, as you think about from a seller perspective, right, obviously most sellers are looking for the most money they can get, right? How do you differentiate yourself from the competition? So it's just not, okay, I'm going to pay $1 million and the person next to me is going to pay 1.1, so you're going to go with the 1.1. How can you drive value in this sector? There's a decent portion that's typically an earnout, so that's how you align yourself with the seller. And if seller's going to have an earnout, they need to trust you that you're going to build their business and continue to grow their business. Otherwise, they're not going to hit that earnout. So how do you gain that trust, and how do you kind of find ways to show that you're the right you're the right acquirer? I think part of that is category expertise, which we certainly have in some of those categories I mentioned earlier. Some of that is building out the operations team. I have the fun part of getting to talk to a bunch of sellers, but ultimately our operations team is what's driving the growth of this business after we buy them. And some of it is just building that relationship for sure.
Gotcha. Super interesting. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you and your journey as to sort of where you've gotten today. So what I would be curious about, right? Obviously, there's tons of information being published, even within that niche of the FBA sellers. So I shouldn't call it niche, even within that area of FBA sellers. How do you stay up to date? Like, how do you sort of educate yourself? What are the platforms that you go to, and how do you filter information in order to maximize sort of the learning effect?
Yeah, FBA space has become a pretty large hit over the last 3 years, and even more so over the last 12 months as more and more aggregators have come into the space. So there are plenty of different depositories of information that you can come to. Podcasts, like this one, there's a bunch of them all over the place, which are great knowledge bases, a lot of Facebook groups, YouTube channels, etc., where FBA Sellers is a pretty tight-knit community. And if you find the right social media groups, you can learn a lot from other people who are going through the same exact experience with you, have seen the same issues, can talk about Amazon, can kind of help you find, whether it's a supply chain partner, a manufacturer, or something where you got delisted for a reason that had nothing to do with your business, but here's the fix and here's how you talk to Amazon about it. So we learn from those groups all the time. I also learn from sellers. We've talked to over 1,000 businesses in the last 15 months, or not necessarily talked to, but seen information on over 1,000 businesses over the last 15 months. And each business has something unique and something we learn, and then we dig into that and find additional information and find the next one that can help us learn more. So I'm learning every day. This sector is fascinating. It reminds me of private equity back in the 1980s, which is really my background is in private equity investing. So bringing some of that rigor to a more nascent industry that's growing incredibly fast, and it's super exciting.
Super interesting. Since we're slowly coming to an end of the interview, I would love to jump into our rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those?
Let's do it.
What's the last book that you read?
Principles.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. What is one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
That's a great question. I would say from my side, it's rapidly buying the proper businesses to help our portfolio. And then from the operations side, it's continuing to scale the businesses that we're buying and then putting our levers to the test and continuing to grow those levers.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what's the one thing that you want to have fixed for your company today?
I think it's data, machine learning, as we were talking about earlier, getting better use of data.
What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
How quickly the industry is scaling and keeping up with that speed.
Mm-hmm. And the very last question would be, if today would be your very first day, right? You're working on Boosted, what would be the one advice that you would give yourself?
Take it all in from the sellers, right? I think we learn as much from the sellers as you can from anything else. So I love that part of my job. I love being able to talk with a bunch of people and find new and interesting ways to sell on Amazon. There's no one right way to do anything. There's a bunch of ways that you just got to figure out what works best for you.
Correct. Adam, I really appreciate that you took the time with us and gave us an insight into the world of the boosted commerce and tell us what you folks are doing and how you're scaling those businesses after the acquisitions. So I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed, what's the one thing that they should remember about boosted commerce?
Yeah, I think we are scaling at an incredible pace. We feel like we're differentiated from other aggregators in the space. We're here to help you grow your business. We look at our sellers as a partner. We would love to partner with you. If you have any interest, come check us out at boostedcommerce.com. Shoot me an email at adam@boostedcommerce.com, or you can try us out at acquisitions@boostedcommerce.com. So plenty of ways to get in touch with us. We promise to give you a quick read on your business, whether it's right for us or not, and can give you some help if you're looking for any knowledge or any questions that you may have. More than happy to spend 15, 30 minutes on the phone and help you grow your business, even if it's not the right one for us.
Thanks for being part of Pathmark Presents.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. It's a great time.